The Kalahari, a unique habitat in southern Africa. A world full of austere beauty and fascinating inhabitants. Only a few marks in the sand indicate the presence of man. In Botswana, safaris are a highly exclusive pursuit. The Kalahari is often mistakenly described as a desert. In this region in the heart of Botswana, it's more like an arid savannah. Most visitors are surprised by the exceptionally large biodiversity of the local flora and fauna. But it is not only animals that reside in the Kalahari. In recent years, a subtle form of tourism has developed around a number of exclusive lodges within the country's most important conservation areas. On the border of the Central Kalahari Wild Reserve is the luxurious Deception Valley Lodge, with first-class accommodation and even a swimming pool. The lodge is not only an ideal starting point for various safaris, it's also an ideal place in which to relax after an exhausting tour of the surrounding wilderness. Suddenly, two men appear. They're Bushmen, one of the most legendary ethnic groups in Africa. In recent years, the owners of the Deception Valley Lodge employed these Bushmen as tour guides for visitors to the lodge. Our reception is polite and amicable, but the contrast between the Western guests staying at the lodge and the Bushmen is quite apparent. While the sun begins to set and gradually colours the sky, the programme is organised which details the walkabout with the Bushmen that will begin tomorrow morning. There's little time left to sleep, as we have to rise early the next day. A few remaining questions are answered, and a route is agreed. The Kalahari Bushmen. For more than 25,000 years, they have lived here in harmony with nature in this semi-desert that is also a hostile environment. However, they've managed to survive without disrupting the ecology of their surroundings. Our walk with the Bushmen, who are also known as San, begins at an important watering hole that is given due scrutiny. Over the course of recent decades, the groundwater level has sunk dramatically. The main cause of this is the increase of water that is used by modern agriculture. Both men walk around the waterhole. For the San people, today life in many areas of the Kalahari is changing dramatically. Within the branches of a tree, our two guides discover the remains of a dead creature that a lion has left in order that it can retrieve it later in the day. The tree is surrounded by bones. The lion appears to favour this particular location. We continue our walkabout through the dry savannah of the Kalahari. The two bushmen provide us with a very welcome sense of security. Somewhat relieved that there's no sign of the lion, we move on. After all, the king of the jungle probably wouldn't take too kindly to a bunch of strangers lurking around his favourite eating place. At our next stop, it soon becomes evident that the San are skillful hunters and are armed with a good knowledge of how to capture their prey. It's fascinating to watch the Bushmen making the animal traps. They use ancient methods that date back thousands of years. To the uninitiated, the traps appear to be inadequate, but the Bushmen have perfected their trap-building skills. The trap is soon completed and is then inspected. After the trap has been set, it finally undergoes a successful test. We move on through the typical high grassland of the Kalahari. To survive in this region, it's necessary to be highly mobile. Depending upon the weather, the animals migrate across vast areas of the arid savannah. Our guides suddenly start to dig. They have hold of an ostrich egg that they buried here recently. Small hiding places for provisions are just as necessary as the ability to walk great distances. The eggshell is removed and cleaned. And now we understand what it's used for: drinking water. Such well-hidden water supplies are located in many areas of the Central Kalahari. The water remains cool beneath the sand. The Bushmen enthusiastically show us how they prepare the ostrich egg for use as a water container. In order to quench their thirst, lions and hyenas make use of ostrich eggs during long periods of drought. The blood of their prey is also an alternative form of liquid nourishment. The hyena will even become vegetarian in order to survive. After we have witnessed some of the survival techniques of the Bushmen, the eggs are closed up once again and well camouflaged beneath the sand. Our guides are so relaxed that it seems as though the savannah is their playground. Armed with their sticks, they're like something from a bygone age. However, both men constantly pay close attention to their surroundings, a factor that has probably saved their lives on numerous occasions. Once again, it seems as if they're searching for a particular spot in the middle of this vast wilderness. After a few meters, one of them begins to dig. The sands of the Kalahari are useful for keeping things cool and well hidden. He soon finds what he's been looking for: and carefully removes the debris from what he has found. It's a large tuber. He uses a sharp piece of wood to peel away one side of the root to expose its fruity interior. He squeezes the fruit and forms it into a sticky mash. The bushman takes as much of the root as he requires. He then allows the liquid from the mash to trickle into his open mouth. Just a few drops can sometimes make the difference between life and death. After he's drunk enough, he cleans his hands with what remains of the mash. The remaining root is carefully placed back in the ground. Thrift is essential. Now it's up to the bushmen to remember the exact location of their hiding place. Here, the landscape can change considerably over long periods of rainfall, so the bushman's knowledge of the ever-shifting local geography is even more impressive. We eventually reach the hunting huts of the San, within the solitude of this half-desert. The construction of the huts has remained unchanged for the past 2,000 years. The building material is completely natural. Nothing is built with the aid of modern machinery. As with their ancestors before them, everything is done by hand. The older guide starts to demonstrate how to make fire with nothing more than what the African wilderness has to offer. The ability to create fire is a milestone in the history of mankind. The bushmen begin by forming a tuft of dry grass. They sharpen a small piece of wood, and another piece of wood is laid on the ground together with some tiny sticks and brushwood. Now for the most difficult part of the operation. The sharpened piece of wood is turned rapidly back and forth in order to create friction that is necessary to create sufficient heat. Suddenly, a wisp of smoke appears. The continuous friction creates the desired effect, and the heat ignites the dry grass. By gently blowing air into the grass, a fire starts to develop. Satisfied with the newly lit fire, one of the men begins to carve something. He seems to know what he's doing. In the meantime, his companion has brought out a wooden figure, some kind of puppet that he controls with his feet. This is the prelude to an ancient ritual. The men start to chant ritual songs. The San have their own religion that is mainly influenced by a highly revered god and an evil antagonist. Ancient ritual, such as this evocation of rain, and trance dances which last for several nights, are still common among the Bushmen of the Kalahari. Next, the younger of the two Bushmen wraps beaded pieces of wood around his legs. This attire is particularly important for the dance that follows. It's a serious business. The rain dance is designed to animate the forces of nature and to bring water to the dried out earth in order to ensure the survival of both man and beast. The dance requires the full concentration of the Bushmen. The healing effect of the dance, that is designed to evoke the spirit world, is a great source of comfort to the San people. By this traditional trance dance, various healing powers are released. The beaded wood that is wrapped around the legs of the Bushmen is used for the creation of rhythmic sounds. The religious belief of the San relies on a large network of both animal and plant life. All creatures have the right to live. The rhythm of the dance gradually increases. The frequency of steps also gains momentum until the dance eventually reaches a climax. But today's demonstration of the rain dance does not last long enough for its exponent to fall into a trance-like state. We must move on. The shadows are becoming longer. They announce the end of a long day full of fascinating experiences. Now life once again stirs in the Kalahari. Extremely high daytime temperatures mean that most animals only become active at nightfall. For most predators, this is also the most important part of the day. On our return journey to the lodge, we admire the beauty of proud acacias and the various other vegetation of this dry savannah. Our guides are concentrating on something. The beauty of the scenery is far from their minds. Their eyes are focused on the ground as they search for traces of wildlife. It's not only predators who go out hunting at the end of the day. The Bushmen are also keen to catch some prey. Reading tracks comes quite easily to the San. The tracks appear to be relatively fresh, and so the hunt can begin. The animals they seek are probably only a few hundred meters away. Now each movement is crucial. One careless mistake, a loud whisper or a cracked twig, and the animals would run away. The tension rises as both men cautiously approach the animals. They use only their traditional hunting weapons and therefore have only one chance. Unfortunately, they're unsuccessful. Hunting is a difficult skill. It's not surprising that 90% of the diet of the San people is made up of plants and fruit. Despite its desert-like appearance, the Kalahari contains around 250 edible plants. The gathering of plants is one of the main duties of the women. Hunting has always been a male domain. Various initiation ceremonies prepare the young men of the tribe for this particular responsibility. the Bushmen of the Kalahari have adjusted to a life of privation. Their relatively small body size is an advantage in this wilderness. However, even for the Bushmen who are more accustomed to this harsh environment, a waterhole is still a very welcome sight. Several cattle farms and various mining projects have not only forced the San people into a harsher environment, but one that also suffers from a serious shortage of water. When examining the waterhole, the Bushmen show their extensive knowledge of nature. The San have always lived a nomadic life in small family units. It is only in extremely fertile areas that contain large quantities of game that village communities have evolved. But during the long periods of drought survival, it was only possible by dividing into several small groups and keeping well away from other tribes. Experienced hunters and medicine men once had great influence over the lives of the San community. Sadly, in recent decades, the living conditions of these people have deteriorated. But their ancient traditions have survived, and necessity is usually the mother of invention, as our guides demonstrate yet again. They show us how they create a type of string from the soft bark of tree branches. The San only take from nature what is absolutely necessary. Waste is not part of their vocabulary. The highest principle of these people is sharing with others. With the exception of a few personal objects that they carry with them, everything else belongs to the community. The newly braided string proves to be very strong and passes its first test. The sun begins to set. The day slowly draws to an end, and the light suddenly has a picturesque quality. It's a splendid night. Soon we will be reaching the starting point of our journey, the Deception Valley Lodge, and it will be time to say farewell to our guides. When considering the marvelous character of this modest people, their continued persecution is even more disturbing. The Central Kalahari Game Reserve has become the last retreat of Africa's legendary Bushmen. What is believed to be the oldest surviving culture in the world is now faced with disaster. Within a single century, man has destroyed the ecological balance of the San's natural homeland. Only here, in this relatively small area of the Kalahari, is there still a home for the legendary Bushmen. Desperate, but far from defeated, they attempt to preserve their cultural heritage for future generations. But their future is uncertain. Few San still live in the traditional way. It would surely be an unforgivable tragedy for both mankind and the Kalahari if this nomadic people were allowed to vanish from this exceptional and unique habitat.